Hope is the most dangerous drug humanity has ever known. It builds empires, sustains armies, comforts the poor, and blinds the foolish. Machiavelli understood its dual nature. It can be the strongest weapon in a ruler's arsenal or the sharpest dagger in the hands of his enemies. To master hope is to master the future, because men will endure present suffering if they believe tomorrow holds salvation. But if hope turns against you, if it fuels rebellion or awakens impossible dreams, it will destroy everything you built. When Machiavelli observed men, he saw a truth most refuse to admit. They live more on hope than on reality. Bread may feed the body, but hope feeds the spirit. Remove it, and even the strongest will collapse. Provide it, and even the weakest will rise to fight. Yet hope is never singular, never pure. It has many faces, some bright, some shadowed, some hidden deep in darkness. And it is within these hidden faces that true power lies. The first face of hope is the face of illusion. People rarely hope for what is reasonable. They dream of wealth beyond reach, victories against impossible odds, love untainted by betrayal, peace in a world built on conflict. These illusions are not weaknesses to be mocked. They are opportunities to be exploited. A genius ruler does not shatter illusions. He cultivates them. He feeds his subjects promises of golden ages, prosperity, and glory, not because he believes them but because they do. Machiavelli knew the masses are bound by appearances. If you give them symbols to cling to, they will forgive your failures, excuse your cruelty, and endure hardship in silence. The second face of hope is the face of delay. Hope thrives in the future, never in the present. The genius manipulator understands that fulfillment must always remain just out of reach. Promise too much and deliver too quickly, and the spell breaks. People will grow restless, greedy, demanding more. But if the prize is always near, yet not fully attained, they will continue to follow. The Romans understood this when they promised citizenship to conquered peoples, but delayed granting it for generations. The delay kept them loyal, eager, willing to serve, because they believed tomorrow would reward today's obedience. The third face of hope is the face of fear. People do not only hope for gain, they also hope to avoid loss. Fear is the darker twin of desire, and it is often stronger. Machiavelli observed that men are quicker to act to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. The wise ruler therefore frames obedience as a shield. Follow me and you will be safe. Resist and you will lose everything. Hope in this form is not joy, it is relief. Survival, the desperate wish to escape suffering. This dark face of hope binds men more tightly than any promise of happiness. The fourth face of hope is the face of betrayal. For while hope can unite, it can also deceive. When hope fails, when promises are broken, when dreams collapse, men do not forgive easily. They turn rage upon their rulers, their leaders, their gods. A genius understands that betrayal is inevitable. No promise can last forever. The art is in managing betrayal, in redirecting blame, in offering a new hope before the old one turns to poison. Machiavelli knew this truth well. It is better to be feared than loved, but best of all to be feared, while appearing to inspire love. To maintain hope, even after betrayal, is the mark of true genius. The fifth face of hope is the face of ambition. Here lies the fuel of great men, those who will not settle for survival or comfort, but hunger for more power, glory, immortality. To such men, hope is fire. It drives them beyond reason, beyond safety, into the jaws of danger. A ruler must recognize ambition and harness it. Give ambitious men tasks, challenges, enemies to conquer. Keep them busy. Keep them believing their greatness lies ahead. If you ignore them, if you stifle them, their hope will turn inward, and they will plot against you. Ambition is dangerous, but without it, kingdoms stagnate. A genius turns ambition into an engine, not a rival. Yet Machiavelli warned that hope, uncontrolled, can be a ruler's undoing. Revolutions are born not in despair, but in hope. When the masses believe change is possible, when they glimpse a better tomorrow, they rise. Despair chains men. Hope liberates them. That is why tyrants fear hope more than hatred. Hatred can be crushed with terror, but hope spreads in whispers, in songs, in secret gatherings. It cannot be stamped out, only redirected. Genius rulers, therefore, do not silence hope. they guide it. They make themselves the embodiment of it, the only source from which it flows. To hope against them is to hope in vain. The hidden faces of hope are not visible to the common eye. The herd sees only the bright mask, the dream of better days. But the genius, the Machiavellian thinker, sees behind the mask into the shadows, the fear that sustains loyalty, the illusions that pacify restlessness, the betrayals that spark rage, the ambitions that demand control. To master hope is not to give people what they want, but to understand what they truly fear losing, what they secretly crave, and how far they are willing to go to preserve their dream. Hope is not passive, it is an energy, a weapon, a chain, a fire. Some rulers try to govern with law, others with armies. The greatest govern with hope. Armies can be defeated, laws can be broken, but hope endures, even in chains. Men whisper of freedom, even in poverty. They dream of riches, even in weakness. They imagine strength. This is why hope must be cultivated carefully, never allowed to run wild. A ruler who ignores hope becomes vulnerable, because someone else will seize it and turn it against him. Machiavelli, in his ruthless wisdom, revealed that power is not only about crushing enemies, it is about shaping dreams. Give people hope, and they will build your empire with their own hands. Take away hope, and they will tear it down, even at the cost of their own lives. The genius ruler knows that hope is a mask, a performance, a theater. Sometimes it must shine with brilliance. Sometimes it must flicker in darkness. Sometimes it must vanish and return like a miracle. But it must always remain in your control. Hope has many faces, and most are hidden in darkness. The ordinary man sees only the smile of promise. The genius sees the dagger behind the smile. And it is only by mastering these hidden faces, illusion, delay, fear, betrayal, ambition, that one can truly rule. For men do not live on bread alone. They live on hope, and the one who owns their hope owns their souls. Hope is not merely a tool for rulers. It is the very foundation of every society. Religion and order. Look through history, and you will see that the greatest empires were not built only on conquest, but on visions of tomorrow. Rome promised eternal glory. The church promised salvation. Nations promised freedom. Each of these promises was nothing more than a carefully designed form of hope, painted with banners and hymns, carried in the hearts of men who often had little else. Machiavelli understood that those who hold power are not gods. They are men, fragile and flawed, yet by attaching themselves to hope, they become untouchable. A king may fall in battle, a priest may be corrupt, a leader may be incompetent, but as long as hope survives, the people continue to follow. They tell themselves, tomorrow will be different, tomorrow will be better, and so they endure today. The genius who studies hope must learn to distinguish between its layers. Not all hope is equal, and not all should be cultivated. Some forms of hope are useful, others dangerous. The key is to separate productive hope from destructive hope, to encourage the former and strangle the latter before it grows teeth. There is the hope of stability, the desire for peace and order. Most people crave predictability above all else. They want to wake each day believing tomorrow will look much like today. Without sudden chaos, this hope keeps them docile, compliant, willing to obey rulers who promise safety. The genius ruler delivers enough stability to maintain this hope, while occasionally threatening disorder, to remind the people of what they stand to lose. There is the hope of prosperity, the dream of wealth, opportunity, and abundance. This hope drives men to work, to innovate, to sacrifice. But it also breeds jealousy and resentment when unevenly distributed. The wise manipulator spreads prosperity unevenly on purpose, enough to keep ambition alive, enough to keep men striving, but never enough to satisfy completely. The hope of wealth must remain a carrot dangling just ahead, never fully within reach. There is the hope of justice, the longing for fairness in a world that is anything but fair. Rulers often exploit this by creating systems that appear to deliver justice while actually preserving power. Courts, councils, parliaments, these are stages where justice is performed, not necessarily achieved. The people hope for fairness, and when they believe they see it, they tolerate even great inequality. Hope masks reality. It does not matter whether the scales are balanced. It matters that the illusion of balance is maintained. There is the hope of redemption, the promise that mistakes can be forgiven, failures erased, and suffering redeemed. Religions thrive on this hope, offering salvation after death or cleansing through ritual. Politicians mimic this strategy by offering second chances, reforms, new beginnings. This hope is powerful because it speaks not only to ambition but to guilt and regret. Men who have sinned, failed, or fallen cling desperately to the idea that they can be restored. A genius ruler offers redemption not freely, but conditionally, only through loyalty, obedience, or sacrifice. There is also the hope of transformation, the belief that people, societies, and entire worlds can be remade. This is the most dangerous hope of all, for it fuels revolutions. It whispers that the current order can be overturned, that the weak can become strong, the oppressed can rise, the poor can inherit. Every uprising in history has been born from this spark. For this reason, the Machiavellian thinker must treat it with caution. Sometimes transformation must be allowed, guided, even staged, but always under control. If you let transformation grow wild, it will consume you. Consider how rulers of old used these layers of hope. Julius Caesar promised his soldiers wealth, glory, and citizenship, keeping their loyalty even as they marched into death. The church promised peasants salvation, convincing them to endure lifetimes of misery. Kings promised peace through obedience, justifying their tyranny as a shield against chaos. In each case, the rulers did not deliver reality. They delivered hope. Reality was cruel, but hope disguised it. But hope, as Machiavelli knew, can never be left unattended. It must be pruned like a garden. Too much prosperity breeds arrogance. Too much stability breeds stagnation. Too much justice breeds rebellion when its illusions collapse. Too much transformation breeds chaos. The genius ruler is not a giver of hope, but a gardener of it, trimming, watering, and reshaping it to serve his ends. What makes hope truly dangerous is its invisibility. Men do not often realize they are driven by it. They believe they act from reason, from necessity, from choice. In truth, hope pulls their strings. The merchant risks his fortune not for today's gain, but tomorrow's dream. The soldier risks his life not for the present battle, but for the promise of honor after victory. The lover sacrifices pride not for the moment, but for the fantasy of lasting devotion. Remove hope, and their courage evaporates. Feed it, and they march willingly into fire. The genius, therefore, must never underestimate the power of symbols, stories, and rituals. Hope does not live in laws or weapons. It lives in imagination. A flag waved above a battlefield, a crown placed upon a head, a speech whispered in the dark. All these are vessels of hope. When Napoleon crowned himself, he was not claiming a throne. He was embodying hope for a new order. When prophets preach, they are not offering truth but hope. When tyrants promise reform, they are not promising change but survival. Each mask of hope conceals a darker face beneath. And so, hope becomes the ultimate paradox. It sustains, but it deceives. It liberates, but it enslaves. It comforts, but it blinds. Machiavelli warned rulers not to mistake appearances for reality. And hope is the greatest appearance of all. Men will starve with smiles on their faces if they believe tomorrow will feed them. They will suffer chains if they believe freedom is near. They will die for causes that never existed, so long as they believe they do. To control hope is to control not just men's actions, but their very souls. It is not enough to rule their bodies, you must rule their dreams. And dreams are not ruled with iron or blood, but with whispers, illusions, and promises. This is the secret face of power, not swords or armies, but hope sculpted into endless forms. Hope has many faces, and the wise see them all. The fool sees only the light. The genius sees the shadows. To live by hope is to be deceived. To master hope is to rule. Hope is the sweetest poison. It flows into the veins of men and nations, numbing pain, strengthening will, but at the same time chaining them to illusions they will never fully touch. To wield hope as a weapon, you must first understand its duality, the light that guides and the shadow that blinds. Machiavelli observed that rulers who give their people nothing but despair are quickly overthrown. Men may endure hunger, taxes, and wars, but they cannot endure the belief that tomorrow will never be brighter. Despair drives rebellion faster than cruelty. Yet those who offer too much hope also risk ruin. A people convinced of limitless possibility soon grows restless, demanding more than any ruler can give. The key is to strike balance, to give enough to inspire loyalty, but not enough to satisfy ambition. The wise ruler plays with time itself. He promises the future, never the present. He says, soon things will improve. Tomorrow we will achieve greatness. Patience and you will be rewarded. The people bound by hope endure endless waiting. They forgive failures of today because they believe in the promise of tomorrow. This is why regimes last decades longer than they should. Why corrupt leaders remain in power. They understand the simple truth. Men will starve for years if you convince them the feast is just over the horizon. Hope is most dangerous when combined with fear. Alone, hope inspires, but with fear it enslaves. The church promised heaven, but warned of hell. Kings promised stability, but threatened chaos. Revolutionaries promised freedom, but threatened tyranny if ignored. When hope and fear dance together, they form unbreakable chains. To master this, the genius must understand how to alternate between offering salvation and warning of doom. Promise paradise, but remind them that without you, hell awaits. History is littered with leaders who mastered this art. Consider Adolf Hitler. He rose in a broken Germany, offering hope of restored pride, national strength and prosperity, but he also paired it with fear of enemies, of collapse of weakness. Millions followed, blinded not by reason, but by a carefully designed balance of hope and terror. Consider the Soviet Union under Stalin. Citizens endured misery because they were promised a radiant future of equality. They accepted brutality because hope was painted in the distance, always just out of reach. The lesson is clear: to hold power, you must never allow hope to be fulfilled completely. If people achieve all they desire, they no longer need you. If they see that your promises are illusions, they will turn on you. The genius ruler keeps hope alive but incomplete, like a candle that never burns out. Every victory must open the door to a greater victory. Every reform must reveal the need for another. Every promise fulfilled must create the expectation of a higher promise. Hope must never end. It must be eternal. There is also a darker strategy: to divide hope among factions. A single unified hope, such as freedom, justice, or revolution, can unite masses against you. But fragmented hope divides them. Give one group hope for prosperity, another hope for security, another hope for justice. Let each cling to its dream, and they will quarrel among themselves rather than unite against you. The most stable empires were those where hope was scattered like seeds across many soils, never concentrated into one unstoppable fire. But beware, hope once unleashed cannot always be contained. Revolutions ignite when rulers miscalculate, feeding too much hope and not enough control. The French monarchy promised reforms but delayed too long. The people's hope of equality turned to rage. The Soviet leaders promised utopia, but when decades of suffering yielded nothing, hope transformed into disillusionment and collapse. This is why Machiavelli advised rulers to be careful in granting too much. Better to promise modestly and deliver slightly than to promise grandly and fail. The genius also understands the personal uses of hope. It is not only masses who can be manipulated, but individuals. A rival may be neutralized not by threats, but by hope of reward. A servant may be bound not by chains, but by hope of rising in rank. A lover may be captured not by affection, but by hope of devotion. Hope enslaves more effectively than fear, for fear breeds resistance, but hope breeds voluntary submission. The man who fears you plots against you. The man who hopes in you serves willingly. Consider the workplace of modern times. Corporations dangle promotions, raises, and recognition before employees. Rarely do they deliver fully, yet workers labor endlessly, clinging to the hope that next year will be mine. Politicians run campaigns on promises of reform, rarely fulfilled, yet voters return to them, hungry for the dream. Even relationships function on this principle. The hope of love, of loyalty, of happiness keeps people bound to others long after reality has soured. This is why Machiavelli would tell you, Do not kill hope outright in others, unless you mean to destroy them completely. Instead, distort it, bend it, redirect it. If you rob a man of all hope, he becomes dangerous, for he has nothing left to lose. But if you leave him a fragment of it, a sliver to hold onto, he remains weak. Docile bound, hope is a leash. Too loose and the dog wanders. Too tight and it bites. Perfectly balanced, it follows you faithfully. Yet hope also has its hidden faces. The ones cloaked in shadow. There is false hope, which you give to enemies to stall them. There is empty hope, which you sell to rivals so they waste themselves chasing illusions. There is cruel hope, where you convince a man that salvation is near, only to strip it from him, leaving him broken. These darker forms of hope are not for rulers of nations alone, but for anyone seeking power in their own sphere. The student who manipulates peers, the merchant who manipulates buyers, the lover who manipulates affection, all wield hope as a weapon, knowingly or not. To master hope is to step into dangerous territory. For the moment you begin shaping illusions, you risk being trapped by them yourself. Many rulers believe their own promises, forgetting that hope is a tool, not a truth. Napoleon believed too deeply in his vision of empire, chasing it into ruin. The Soviet Union believed its own myth of utopia, collapsing under its weight. The ruler must always remain detached, cold, clear-eyed, use hope but never drink it, give it but never live by it. Machiavelli would whisper, "Be the dealer of hope, not its addict." Men will always need dreams to carry them through suffering. They will always crave visions of tomorrow. You must be the one who decides which dreams they are allowed to see, which illusions they are allowed to chase. To be the master of hope is to be the master of destiny itself. Hope is not always born of kindness. It can be engineered, manufactured, sculpted like clay in the hands of those who understand its chemistry. To truly master hope, one must learn to create it where none exists, to redirect it when it grows wild, and to extinguish it only when destruction is the goal. This is the darkest lesson of all. Hope is not a gift, but an instrument of control. The first secret is scarcity. Hope only thrives when it is scarce, when it is just out of reach. If people are flooded with rewards, wealth, or success, they no longer cling to hope. They grow complacent or arrogant. But if you give them only a taste, a glimpse, a fragment, their hunger intensifies. The miser who promises inheritance, the employer who hints at promotion, the ruler who teases reform, all keep men chained by scarcity. To wield hope, you must never give fully. You must give almost enough. The second secret is ambiguity. Hope grows strongest in uncertainty. A vague promise carries more weight than a precise one. When men do not know exactly what is coming, they imagine it greater than reality could ever provide. This is why religions speak in mysteries, why rulers speak in visions, why leaders promise change without detail. The less specific the hope, the more powerful it becomes. A man will forgive failure if he believes the future is still unfolding. He will not forgive betrayal if you promised exact results and failed. The third secret is delay. Hope must always live in tomorrow. Give too quickly and it dies. Deliver too late and it rots. The genius manipulator masters timing, feeding small victories at intervals to sustain the dream. This is the strategy of empires. A new reform announced, a new holiday declared, a new project begun. None of these solve problems, but all keep the people waiting, believing, enduring. The wait itself becomes the leash. The fourth secret is personalization. Masses can be bound by collective hope, but individuals require a more intimate touch. Learn the secret desires of each person: wealth, love, recognition, power, and feed them hope tailored to their hunger. This is the art of the seducer, the manipulator, the strategist. Men will betray their friends, families, even themselves, if you convince them their private dream lies within reach. Each man is a prisoner of his own hope. The fifth secret is destruction. When you wish to break a man, do not strike him with fear or pain. Instead, feed him hope and then crush it. A soldier who believes rescue is near fights longer. If that rescue never comes, his spirit shatters. A rival who thinks victory is close will exhaust himself, only to collapse when it is taken away. This is the cruelest use of hope, not to sustain, but to annihilate. Machiavelli himself might whisper that sometimes the surest way to destroy an enemy is to let him climb the ladder of hope, then kick it away. But there is also danger in mastering hope. To play with it is to play with fire, for when hope is manipulated too far, it mutates into rage. The people who once believed may awaken, furious at betrayal. The follower who once served loyally may turn enemy when he sees the promise was false. This is why the master of hope must also master forgetting, the ability to erase promises, to rewrite history, to distract with new visions before old ones collapse. Hope is fragile, but memory is malleable. If people forget what you promised yesterday, they will cling eagerly to what you promised tomorrow. Modern rulers, corporations, and influencers understand this well. Advertisements never sell products, they sell hope. A car is not metal and wheels, it is the hope of freedom, prestige, power. A phone is not plastic and glass, it is the hope of connection, status, identity. Politicians do not sell policies, they sell dreams of a better future. However vague, the most powerful are not those who own armies, but those who own imagination. For imagination is the soil where hope grows. The genius individual, whether ruler, strategist, or ordinary person seeking power, must learn to watch how others use hope against them. Every relationship, every transaction, every promise is built on this subtle manipulation. Friends give false reassurance to keep you loyal. Employers offer vague rewards to keep you working. Lovers promise forever to keep you bound. To be free is not to reject hope, but to recognize when it is real and when it is a leash. Machiavelli's lesson, buried in shadow, is this: do not be ruled by hope, rule with it. To live by hope alone is to live in chains, bound to promises that may never come. But to understand it, to wield it, to see its many faces, that is to become untouchable. Hope has many faces. To the weak, it appears as light, comfort, salvation. To the genius, it appears as a mask, hiding levers of control. And to those who master it, hope is neither light nor mask. It is the very architecture of power. Every throne, every empire, every kingdom rests not on gold or blood, but on hope. Strip it away, and even the strongest ruler collapses. Feed it wisely, and even the weakest survives. To understand this is to see the world as Machiavelli saw it, not as a battlefield of swords and soldiers, but as a battlefield of illusions, dreams, and the chains of tomorrow. And so, let the ordinary chase hope blindly. Let them dream of riches, freedom, justice, or love. But you, if you wish to rise above them, must not be their companion in hope. You must be its architect, create it, distort it, divide it, and direct it. For in the end, those who control hope control everything. Hope has many faces. Some shine in daylight, others hide in darkness. Only the wise see them all.